Okay, friends, so now we're going to be talking about how do we get everything set up in our recording software or our DAW to make sure that we're ready to go. Well, that also includes making sure that the interface is ready to go and that the microphone is plugged in and all of those bells and whistles are taken care of. So let's head on over and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, guys, so first thing that we want to do here is making sure that your microphone is plugged in to your interface, okay? And remember, if you're using that condenser microphone of any kind, then you need to hit 48 volts here. You need that phantom power. The next thing to do is make sure that your volume is turned up. And you don't have to go straight at top dead center. I'd say right about here, this is like probably close to 11 o'clock or so, or maybe just a little bit. Like that's probably more like 11 o'clock. So then you've got your volume turned up. Then the next thing to do would be to either plug in your headphones or you would be using your computer output here on the side like I am. So, but those two things I wanted to talk about really quick before we get set up in the actual recording software. So I am going to be using Logic Pro here for the purposes of this tutorial. So if you don't have Logic Pro, that's okay. Still follow along because a lot of the same concepts that I use are still going to apply in your digital audio workstation. There might be a few extra steps that you might have to take depending upon what program it is that you're using, but like I said, a lot of these concepts are still going to be the same. The one thing that I would say is different is that when you're using an Apple product like Logic or GarageBand, you don't always have to use external drivers for your interface. So that means extra software that makes your interface run. The nice thing about using a Mac is that they are very intuitive and you can just hook up all of these different interfaces and go to town. So let's get into it. So here is the new project window for Logic X. It'll look something similar in GarageBand. I'm just going to select empty project because I want to start from square one for all of you. So then you get this handy little window that pops up. And at this point, just select audio. And then that's it. Don't worry about anything else for right now. So we'll hit create. And then our track shows up. Now, if your track shows up and this wheel, which is the pan wheel, which makes it come out of your headphones left and right, if it's all the way over to one side, then just click it and drag it so that it says 0 there, okay? Now, the next thing that we want to do is make sure that Logic has selected your actual interface to record the audio. So what we're going to do, go to Logic Pro or GarageBand if you're using GarageBand. Go to Preferences. Now this whole step here, same kind of concept no matter what interface or no matter what recording software you're using. You want to go to Preferences, go to Audio, and then a window will pop up that will show you what your output device is, your input device, and then also hopefully your buffer size. So these three things we're going to focus on right now because they're very, very important when it comes to recording. So for output device, you're going to see that I have a couple of different options here. There's system setting, the Firebox, the audio box, built-in output, and HDMI. So for your purpose, you need to select your either built-in output, which is essentially the headphone output on your computer, or you need to select your interface. Now, I have two hooked up, so I'm going to leave mine at the audio box, but I was using the PreSonus in other videos, so if I was using that particular interface, then I would choose it, but right now, we're choosing my audio box because that's the interface I want to use for my output device. So then I would also plug in my headphones to this device as well, okay? So if you selected built-in output, just remember, you'll plug it into your computer. If you select the interface, you have to plug your headphones into the interface. The next thing that we need to discuss is the input. That should also be the interface that you are using. So if you're using the Scarlett Focusrite, then make sure your input is set to Scarlett Focusrite. That's super, super important. Right now, I don't have anything plugged into the Firebox, so I'm not going to be using it. I'm using my audio box. Now, the buffer size. This is also very important. Depending upon how old your computer is, it may not be able to handle a lot of information coming at it all at once. So before I upgraded my computer with a higher bit of RAM, I had to make sure that I was always recording at 32 samples, okay? And this was just to make sure that my CPU had enough power to actually handle all of the tasks that I was giving it. Now, if you can record in a higher sample rate, like 64 or 128, I would highly recommend it. But I would not go beyond 128 samples. And the reason for that is because you'll get something called latency, or it sounds like an echo or a delay. Okay, anything above 128, you're going to start to get this delay, and it's going to really throw you off when you start trying to record your vocals, record your guitar, or any other instruments. It's going to be very, very difficult for you, okay? Especially if you're trying to listen to yourself play through headphones, it's going to be almost impossible. So keep it set at 32. It's a good safe number, and you typically are not going to have any problems, okay? So if you selected something else, that's okay, not a big deal. Just don't go above 128 if I were you. Keep it at 32. And then you'll hit apply changes, and then you should be good to go. Okay, so at this point here, you should be receiving audio. Okay, so if you're in GarageBand, then you're going to be looking at your volume meter here in the track window. Or if you've got Logic Pro, then you can see the level meter going to town right here as well. So one thing that I want to be very clear about, okay, when you are looking at the amount of audio that you are getting in, you want it to register right about 18 dBFS, okay? And that is really, really important because that is the digital sweet spot for receiving audio into your recording software. So it's not too much audio, but it's also not dipping to the point where it's not enough audio. It's just about right. Now, if you're not using Logic, if you're using GarageBand, you're not going to get anything that actually has, 0, 3, -6, -9, 12, -15, and so on. You're not going to have any of those numbers. So you're going to have to kind of play this by ear. I'm going to tell you right now, shoot for just about the center of your level meter, okay? And that'll be pretty darn close to -18 dBFS. So it's not completely accurate in GarageBand, but you can play with it. The main thing is that you do not want to get so much audio that you're starting to get distortion, okay? Distortion in the box or in a recording software is not ideal at all because it starts to pose these really nasty problems where you get this harsh, gritty sound into your track, and it's not pleasing to the ear at all. You want something that's very clean, very clear, and you don't want to have to worry about hearing nasty, distorted tones over top of your tracks, especially if you're recording an acoustic instrument like a guitar, an acoustic guitar. You don't want any distortion on that unless you're going for some kind of really specific sound. So that being said, let's say now you're getting your audio, everything is good. Now we need to actually figure out, how do we record stuff, okay? Well, easily enough, you have your record, stop, play, all of those controls right up here. So what you're going to do is hit record, and at this point, you should be getting audio. You can see that it's picking up my voice here, which is fantastic. Now, one thing that might happen when you hit record is, let's say this little guy over here was highlighted. This is your count in. So what it does is it has a metronome give you 4 clicks, or you could set it to give you more than 4 clicks, but it'll give you 4 clicks before you are going to start recording your audio. Now, a lot of musicians prefer using a metronome or a click track when they record. The reason that you want to use a click track is because it's going to keep you in time. It's going to ensure that there aren't any fluctuations in tempo in your recording. And that's important because what if you want to do more than one instrument, okay? Let's say, for example, this was a guitar track. I wouldn't want my tempo to fluctuate and go up and down, especially if I want to put a bass guitar in it or if I want to put drums in it. It needs to be very steady and it needs to be one consistent tempo all the way through. So that's very important. And typically in GarageBand, there's a metronome volume meter that you can adjust to make sure that you don't have to worry about it blowing your ears out. Okay, if you're in Logic, then I'll show you a really easy way to adjust your metronome level. You're going to hit the X key, and then this is going to pop up. And you'll see that we have our audio track right here. We have a stereo out track and then a master track, which controls all of our volume for everything. So you're going to come to the top of this window, hit all, and then check it out. Now see that click track, it would have blown my ears out. So I'm going to pull this down, and I might have to adjust it later on if it's not loud enough. But that's very important. So then you can go back to tracks, and you can view your mixer here if you want, or you can let go of it and hit X again, and then it will disappear. All right, so now let's say, for example, that I didn't like what I did in this particular track. So I'm going to just highlight it, and all you have to do is click on it, hit the delete key, and then you can choose delete or keep. I'm going to delete it because I don't like it. Hit OK, and then it's gone. All right. Now we'll make sure our cursor gets all the way back to the beginning. That way we start recording from 0 bar or the first bar. So then let's say, for example, I'm going to hit record again. And at this point, I've got my metronome clicking. I'd be able to hear that in my headphones. And let's say I'm recording a guitar track here. Okay. I want to stop the recording. You can hit spacebar to do that. Now, I want to record something over top of it. So I'm going to come over here to this little plus button, which is the new track button, and you bring up the new track window. So at this point, let's say I want to actually use the second input because maybe I have a bass guitar that I want to put over top of my acoustic guitar. We'll hit create. And then we've created a brand new audio track.